Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm the Fairy Medicine Woman. I'm a musician, seer, philanthropist, and teacher. And I wanted to talk to you about being in flow state because it's the most powerful state that you can be in when you're trying to create the life that you are desiring. And if you're on this channel, you are likely someone else who is also a seer, someone else who is evolving their gifts, and someone who believes in making an impact in the world. And so I like to teach people how they can use their gifts in order to create the world that they are wanting to see, in order to create the income that they're wanting to see. And I was getting a lot of nudges from spirit and the ancestors about speaking about flow state so you can begin to recognize it and know how to head towards it for yourself. And I have my handy notebook if you see me looking down. And when you think about flow state, and we can keep this on a basic level because people overcomplicate flow state, but flow state is when you are in perfect union with the universe, with energy around you, with energy within yourself, to the point where your life almost feels effortless. Like, people tend to assume that flow state is when you can be working and you're just in a flow, right? Or maybe you're an athlete and you're performing really well and you're in a flow, but it's so much more than that. Like, flow state can be a state of existence. Like, that can be your entire life where you are completely in sync, where you are completely in line with the universe, with energies around you, to the point where you are one, right? People talk about oneness and experiencing collective consciousness, and that's what flow state is. It's a state of allowing energy to flow from you into another energy and allow that energy to flow back to you, where it's easy communication. You don't even have to think about it. And sometimes there's a misconception of, well, if you're going to be in flow state, you have to consciously think about it. No. Once you can master your own energy and be in a meditative state for longer periods of time and be aware of your own energy and how you show up in the universe, it becomes just a part of who you are. And that's why your clairs then start to evolve and start working together. They don't work independently. It's just that maybe you have more energy that is able to flow through one. Like, maybe you have the gift of seeing, but your claircognizance isn't developed, and that's only because energy hasn't been able to flow through both at the same time. And what's great about flow state is that you constantly feel supported. You never feel alone. You never feel like you don't know where your path is. You always know, because there's constant communication. And even if you one day wake up and your energy is a little bit off, or you're a little bit shaken that day, the universe will communicate in such a massive way, and you receive it through all of your clairs, that it's almost impossible to stay in a state of being uncertain, because of how strong that connection is when you're in flow state. And you also start to realize that you are now tapped into something that allows you to have limitless resources, limitless interactions and communication, right? Like, once you communicate with certain spirits or energies, deities, like anything on the other side, you can communicate with all of them. It's just a matter of how expansive do you want to be. And when you start to let go of what you think you know, which I was talking about on TikTok yesterday, you can experience a beautiful life, because you're not limiting how the information is going to be shared with you. You just allow it to flow. You receive messages through other people, literally angels in bodies, right? Ancestors in other people's bodies. You receive information through your phone. Your phone will even start changing. And that was one of my most favorite things when it started to happen, was even if I would be typing something, different words would be coming out, because they would be sharing information, right? Our phone is just information. It's just a flow of energy. And when you let go, it's even more fun because it's like, well, of course you can talk to me. Like, if you're telling me what's coming or what I should get excited about, like one time it even just said celebrate, or one time it said vacation, or, you know, beach, or love, like, or a person's name. If I asked a question, right? If I needed to know who was doing something, they wrote the name. So it's like you can get to this state of just being supported in all levels. And I kind of wanted to explain what it looks like day to day, because I feel like that's the most helpful, because no matter how many books you try and read, if you don't know what it looks like in your real life, it's going to be hard for you to comprehend it. And to me, I have a very indigenous way of teaching. Like, I like to share stories so you can take what resonates with you and you can pass it on, because that's more impactful to me than, you know, consistently trying to overcomplicate something and put it into a manuscript and then doing while that is important, it's also important to share things word of mouth, right? That's how we received a lot of stuff. That's how our ancestors did things, and that's why we know a lot today, right? Recipes and things like that. So I kind of just wanted to give you a glimpse of my day yesterday, because like it was such a magical day, and I know today it's already been amazing. But my mentor, Master Shri Akashner, which I don't know if you follow them, you definitely should, is phenomenal. And you know, we're doing this like spiritual journey, and it was the first day of the journey, and there was a whole conversation about, you know, there is no issue that's too big when you are connected to the universe, when you are connected to oneness, because there's such a deep feeling of expansiveness, of energy, of support, of oneness, that it's already taken care of. So there's really nothing in the world that you need to worry about. It's really about just going and experiencing the journey. And it was such an eye-opening moment for me during that point, as someone, as an activist, you know, and I carried that with me the entire day, and I just allowed my energy to flow even bigger that day, and anything I thought of happened. So, you know, I really needed groceries, and I needed to put gas in the car, but I didn't have time to do it. I was doing something else in that moment, and I was like, you know what, it's already done. And the minute I said that, someone walked into the office and said, hey, do you want anything from the grocery store? Just make a list. I'm gonna go put gas in the car. And I was like, perfect. I was like, it's already done. I gave them what I needed, and they left, and I was supposed to run that day, but I was like, I needed to do those things before I go run. And after that, you know, I got to the park, and I told myself, I was like, you know, I really am calling in this fresh start, and I can't wait. And if you look at my TikTok from yesterday, I talked about how I had woken up that day, and Spirit had also said, like, no more delays. It's like, now is the time to move forward. And I felt like I was outgrowing the trail that I was on, and like when I'm in one place for too long, I get really like like I try to push it away, specifically with folks who are there who just like were not being as friendly. But as you know, as someone who is a light worker, or you know, a healer, your energy can be so massive that all sorts of people will gravitate towards you. And so that's why I'm constantly changing like my path, one for safety, but also just like, you don't want to be around that type of energy for too long. And you know, the day had just been beautiful, and right before I had left, I had a session with something around show business that I had just started, and that was massively beautiful and so much fun. And I got on the trail, and I was running, and there's this fence that I always touch, and I just had this feeling that I knew that when Spirit would tell me it was time to move forward, that it was time, that my life was changing. And I suspected it would be in November, because that's what November is about. November is about moving forward. October was restoration. November is moving forward. And you know, the day before, the water had been rushing really hard, and it's been still this whole time, and the ancestors were like, things are flowing, it's almost time to go. And I was like, okay, let me like make sure my bags and stuff are done, make sure I tighten up everything, you know. And I was running, and I got to the end of the path, and the gate was wide open. And so they just told me to run, and I ran, and it was the most beautiful trail I had ever seen. And I doubled my running distance. Like, I have been training for a 10K, and I ended up doing like a 20K. And I wasn't even tired. And they just said, keep running, but just enjoy the journey. Be like, it was, they were asking me to be in a deeper flow state. And they asked me before I went through the gate, they said, do you trust us? And I said, yes, I trust you. And they said, well, then just run and don't think about anything else. And one of my favorite spin coaches would always tell me, like, your body already knows what to do. You don't need to worry about anything else. So sometimes she would encourage her legs. She would say, come on, legs, I know you can do this. So I'm going to let it go and keep going. And so when I run, and when you exercise in general, which is why movement is so important to you, right? You know, there's that saying of like, weak body, weak mind, right? That's why a lot of cultures spiritually also train, because you need to have a strong body so you can have a strong mind, strong energy. Movement is important for your clairs. Movement is important for your energy, for expansiveness, for being in flow state. That's why it's so easy when you hear athletes talk about, oh, you know, I just was focusing on X, Y, and Z, or I had my affirmations, or I was doing this. That's because they're in a very high flow state. They don't have to worry about breathing or moving. They just allow their energy to exist, and they can just, it's not even checking out. Like, they're not disassociating, they're just releasing and existing. And your physical body knows what to do. And so when I run, the same thing happens to me. Everything gets very silent, and it's just vision upon vision upon vision. And this time it was even stronger because I ran even further. And so you have to understand that movement is going to be key for you to stay in flow state. So if you don't have some sort of movement practice for yourself, I highly recommend that you create one so that you can feel this energy. Because when we move, just like yoga, right? Yoga is really important for that. When we move energy. That's why we get warm. That's why we start to breathe. We inhale, we exhale, we are moving energy. And you stop feeling stagnant, and you receive all that positive energy from moving. It uplifts your mood, literally. And so your depth of flow state is even stronger. So as you're developing your gifts, you'll notice when you're in flow state, your gifts just explode beyond belief. And you know, for myself, as I was running, as someone who can see the future and also tap into energy, right? Everything happens at once. So that's also something to remember, that even if you can look at timelines, everything still happens at once. That's why things can constantly be changing. Like, as I was running, I was talking to my ancestors. They were cheering me on. I could also hear, because I have a spirit baby around who's actually the reincarnation of a friend who passed away while I was in Southern California, and I could hear them, I could see them, and you know, they were just saying, you know, like, I'm ready to be born now. Like, mommy, you're running so fast these days. I've never seen you go this far. And it was like all these things happening at once, and I could see where I might be moving and who I might be talking to and what's going on globally. And you know, it's like your body just does what it does, and then you kind of it's almost like you leave your body. You're in such a flow state, you're connected to something else. And I literally realized that as I was running around, I felt like I was catching flies, because it was so beautiful, and I was so in the moment that I felt like I was running around with my mouth open. But it didn't even matter, because it was just like so much fun. And it was like, I perfectly timed it. You know, I didn't even time it. It was perfectly timed. I got home, and then I walked through the door, and then my candles went out, and then I exchanged them. Like, it's like you start to see these little things that line up so easily, like you're just in a flow with everything around you, or you pick up your phone and your phone rings and then you talk to this person. And then, you know, I kept looking at my comic books. I keep comic books by my bed, and then, you know, I could feel this energy coming off them differently this time. And then someone talks to me about comic books, and then, you know, then I get an offer about comic books. And then, you know, it's just like, it just becomes this thing of like, you don't have to worry literally about anything. And then your ancestors of the universe will start speaking to you about what you should even eat. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna eat X, Y, and Z. And then it's like the perfect amount. And then, you know, I feel really good. And then I'll be curious about why they had me eat X, Y, and Z. And it has everything to do with like me training and my spiritual gifts. And like, you just you just get into a flow, right? And I just want to remind you that things will always look different than you think if you allow them to. But it's so important to allow yourself to experience something different, because that's what comes with having gifts. Gifts are not something that you can put into a box, that you can categorize, that you can say they work this way and only this way, because it's different for every person, because everybody receives information differently. And that is a part of your flow state, and understanding that your flow state may look very different than my flow state, because our gifts are at different stages, and our gifts, again, work differently. And then, you know, a fun thing that also happened that night is I was like, oh, I want to do some movement before I lay down. And then my phone bings, and then it's my like mentor who's a Shaolin monk, and they decided to do an impromptu movement class. So you just exist. You try to exist as best as you can within the circumstances that you are in. And I think it's also important to know that even though you can get into these flow states, it doesn't mean that you're not taking action, because I see a lot of people try to spiritually bypass and not do things in their life because they're supported, which you are supported, but it takes also a sense of effort. But it's the right effort. It's you following the signs, or you seeing the signs, experiencing the signs, receiving the signs, and then moving forward, so that it becomes a full conversation. And that is how you feel that support. That's how you know you're on the right track, because the signs get stronger and stronger and stronger the more you do it, because you open that channel and they're like, okay, great, you're receiving the information. But if you take no action, that's why people say I feel stagnant, I feel like I can't move forward. It's because you're missing all of the things around you, and you're too in your stagnant energy, meaning you haven't let your energy flow, you haven't moved, you haven't changed anything that you're doing to be able to help yourself. Like, flow state doesn't work if you are doing the same things that you used to do in the past when you felt stagnant. So the best thing that you can do when you are engaging, or you're wanting to be in a flow state, is to do something differently. And one of those things can easily be movement, if it's something that is accessible to you in whatever way that you can move. And sometimes movement can also be just doing breath work. The strongest is going to be exercise. Like, you're gonna be in flow state a whole lot faster. And you know, I thought about this for myself on how deeply I've been in flow state and how it's evolved. And this is probably true for you as well. When you start to look back, is there's moments in our lives where we experience flow state and then we forget about it, and we don't recognize it because our body can't recognize it. And we're so attached to the 3D, we're so attached to the earth, that when our body can't recognize something, it's almost like it doesn't exist. And so that's why exercise really helps you, because exercise teaches your body to understand information on repetitious, is that a word? It's repetitive level, to the point where you don't have to remember anything. And you know, I thought about this as I was running. Like, my body just knows what to do. And it's the same thing, like, I'm a big extreme sports person. I always have been. It was the same thing when I had my BMX bike. It was the same thing when I skateboarded. It was the same thing when I would roller skate. It was like, when I started to be in my body and feel fear is when I couldn't do what I was trying to do. But when you get into this flow state and you just exist, you do things a whole lot easier. Same thing with swimming, right? You have your stroke and you're just breathing, and your body knows how to take care of you, and you kind of get out of your mind and you sit in this higher state of being. And I thought about it also when I was going snowboarding, and for the longest time I wouldn't go down the Black Diamond because I kept thinking that like it's too hard for me, like I don't really know what's going to happen. But sometimes your flow state's going to be when you are challenging yourself the most, because you have to let go, like you have to do something different. But if you keep doing the beginning stage of the mountain, one, you're gonna be really fucking frustrated because there's so many people down there. It's like little ants that you can't like get around. You force yourself down a channel or a path that you know nothing about. And so you have to change. Like there is no other way to experience it other than to do something differently. And so then your body changes, your energy changes, your breath even changes. And I remember, like, I'm notorious for always falling off the lift right when we get off. Like there's something about it that I just like, I don't like it. And I'm like, I'm gonna stay close to the ground, I'm just gonna fall. And I tell people, I'm like, you should put me on an end, just let me do what I gotta do, I'll be fine. Like, and we had gone to the top of this, Black Diamond, and it literally was a whiteout, and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So not only is it a mountain that I don't know, I can't fucking see. And I was like, great. Well, I was with someone and they just were like, hang tight, like just like hang tight to me, you already know what to do. And it was like I had to let go because I physically also couldn't see other than like maybe a foot in front of me. But it ended up being easier because all I was doing was focusing my energy into, as long as you can see this image or this person, you're gonna be fine. And I would just tell myself like toes up, toes down, toes up, toes down the whole time. And before I knew it, it had like cleared up, and it was way easier because the snow was softer. Nobody was up there other than like me and like a couple other people. And I didn't even realize that the person who was in front of me had actually like went further ahead and was just like bombing the mountain so that they could see me, because I was so focused on like, I'm just gonna get down the mountain. And I remember feeling so connected with the mountain itself and just hugging it so close when I would be like turning and putting my hands in the snow, so that I felt like connected and I didn't feel alone. And that's when you're in that beautiful, a flow state, and you don't even recognize it, but your energy is just communicating with everything around you, like a giant mountain, the snow, like your breath, your body, like it just all works in perfect union. And so remember those times in your life, excuse me, where you've had those moments, because it's going to be really key for you as you move forward, for you to remember that you've done it before, or that it's possible for you to do it before, because I guarantee you have done it before. So like every person I talk to always says, I don't know, like I don't think, and I'm like, I guarantee you at some point in your life you have. And if you don't remember as an adult, I guarantee you did it as a child, because children are like the best at being in flow state, because they don't give a shit about anything and they just love life itself, and they just flow, like shit just comes out of their mouth, like they move however they want to, they let their emotions flow, like they're the most in flow state. So you've done it before, and that's where even doing your inner child work is going to be really helpful for you, because you can connect with that energy again that you haven't connected with in a really long time, to tap into this flow state. But just know that if you manifested this video, which you did because you're here, like this is a message and an invitation to you to keep going and surrender to the universe, surrender to energy that is bigger than you, so you can feel supported and know that you're okay. And it's okay to not understand why it's happening, and it's okay to like not talk to certain people around you if they're not in flow state, right? Like you'll know when someone's in flow state because they take like no offense to anything. Like they're just the most understanding people because they're in their own flow state. So why would they care about like, other things, So they're on their path, they're in their destiny. And so if you're feeling that way, like it's okay to stay in your hermit mode for a little bit while you are mastering, your own flow state. And so that when you are ready to leave, which many of us are about to start traveling, are about to start being visible in different ways, like you already know how to stay in it regardless of what your environment looks like. So I just wanted to share that with you all. I am sending you so much love and so many hugs. Keep going. Know that you are such a magical spirit and that the universe is always here to support you. I'm here to support you. Be sure to like and subscribe. Also, I'm going to be starting next week. It's called Z School for the Gifted. So it's just going to be a community forum where you can submit questions and I will answer them live for you. And it's going to be on a sliding scale. So if there's anything you want to learn about, anything you want to ask, that would be the place to do it. Or even if you just want to be in community and hang out and drink some tea, drink some mushrooms and cacao, and just be in a space of good energy with folks who understand flow state or who are learning about it or who are want to make an impact, this is going to be for you. And then, check out some tarot readings, check out the inner child healing that I offer, check out my insight timer. There's a free meditation on there. Whatever you need, you will find it. But I'm sending you lots of love, lots of hugs, and just congratulations on manifesting this video and being in the stage that you are in. You must be a very powerful being, and I'm excited to know you. I'm excited to be in community and share an energy with you. So have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.